Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup. It is May 28th, 2022, and tonight we will be talking about iFixit getting all, or at least almost all, of the parts for you to be able to fix your Steam Deck should something break. We'll also be talking about how the PlayStation 1 games available to the brand new PlayStation Plus tiers are all running in PAL version, and we'll also be talking about how TCL thinks that we've got a PlayStation 5 Pro and a new Xbox Series console coming sometime in the next couple years. That and more, of course, here on the NPCs Weekly News Roundup. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup for the week of November 20th, 2020. It is Friday. It is, where's my date? It's September 18th, 2020 here to our first story, and this is actually breaking news for all of us right now here, too. Figured this is a kind of a big one to cover, of course, with who it is. Joined via Discord by Kyle because we're in the midst of a pandemic still, and of course, everything is all kinds of crazy. So this thing is a chocker. I mean,
yeah, it's a beast.
It's huge. Doing that we had the Resident Evil stuff, that they were successful with Castlevania. Welcome to another NPC's Weekly News Roundup. And it's the news time. I am joined, of course, by Kyle via Discord. Kyle, hello.
What's up?
Man. All right, here we are. We're live. We're ready to talk about the news. My name is Travis. Kyle's over there. Kyle, what's up, man?
What's up? I'm here.
You are here.
I think
we are here. Yes, last week we
here.
were definitely just feeling a little bit burnt out from the week we had. So no news, of course. We're human. We need to take breaks, right? Right?
Yeah, partially human, I guess.
Partially. Yes, we are kind of all robots controlled by the machines out there that are...
yeah, controlled by the machines we are tied into currently broadcasting our news to you.
Yeah, as I feel on the back of my head, the plug where I should be tapped into the Matrix right now, yet I'm not. So,
yeah.
Oh well, I guess I'm here with you guys instead. So... guns, lots of guns, or in this case, gaming news, lots of gaming news. Well, kind of. It's actually been a quiet week, so let's just kick it off here with our first one. And this comes actually from last Saturday. iFixit is going to start selling every Steam Deck part, or at least most of them. It was leaked out last week, or it seemingly got out there, thanks just to iFixit themselves, that they are going to be carrying literally every single part for the Steam Deck down to the motherboard. So outside of that, the only things they won't carry, let me list off what they're going to carry. They're going to have the thumbsticks. They're going to have the daughter boards for the thumbsticks. They're going to have speakers. They're going to have the motherboard. They're going to have screens. They're going to have the entire shell. They're going to have your Wi-Fi card. It sounds like they might even have the M.2 SSD that it's actually built for that. Built specifically for the Steam Deck, or at least the one that has the EMI shielding on it. Basically everything, except for the battery and for the metal inside framing, the one that helps to provide the rigidity of the console itself. But iFixit's going to be carrying everything. Kyle, you have a Steam Deck hopefully on the way sometime in the next couple months. What do you think about
should
that?
be July, August, I want to say, hopefully. I'm looking at the list and looking at the breakdown, and actually you make out pretty good, even paying for the most expensive system. I'm looking at, the motherboard cost and, the cost of the thumbsticks, and yeah, I mean, priced out, you could build one potentially. You're gonna spend probably $250 to $350 more than what it costs to order one. But it's possible.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool parts about it too is that if you are one that's going to be getting the cheaper version of the Steam Deck, either the 64 or 256 gig version that doesn't come with the anti-glare screen, you can go buy a repair kit that comes with the anti-glare screen and the fixed parts or the actual tools, to do it all yourself. And that on the list is $100. So if you want to upgrade that screen to one that's a little bit nicer, you could do that for $100. It's not bad.
Definitely do it. I would totally recommend it. I've seen the difference between the two screens, and I'm glad I'm getting the anti-glare screen.
Yeah, especially the idea that the screen's going to be there and it should be easy enough at least to get to after you pull everything apart to throw that in there, and it's not one of those like an Apple screen where it's like glued down. That's pretty slick. So I'm very excited for all of that. A couple of things I didn't mention though, of course, is like Um, they also have like your back plate, your front plate. I think that's actually just the case in of itself. Your triggers, I did say speakers. They've got D-pad on here. They've got your action buttons. They've got the I believe the touchpads are also on here too for the back of the device. You've got fans, everything. I mean, outside of the battery and the battery and the interior metal frame, you could, like you said, you could build an entire Steam Deck if you wanted to. Granted, yeah, you're talking about $300.
Yeah, I mean, $250 to $350 might be a gross overestimation, but I mean, you're still paying more from what I'm seeing. But I mean, it's totally possible, and it's really cool that they're providing all the parts, and really, really putting forward the whole right to repair thing with the Steam Deck. And of course, Steam has gone out of their way and said, don't do this by yourself, but if you need to, here's the video. And of course, iFixit has videos as well for, I believe, already up.
Yeah, well, I don't think they have everything up though yet. I think that they've still got some more that they're putting together.
Right. I think they've got some up though.
Yeah. But what I find interesting more than anything is the fact that the motherboard's going to be available. And if you follow the build guide or the repair guides to show how the motherboard actually connects up to everything else, you could almost in theory, if you really put out the effort there, you could make yourself a mini gaming PC just with that alone. Ditch the screen, ditch the built-in, controller. Just make sure you've got your Wi-Fi, your storage, your cooling, and 3D print yourself a little case to throw it in, and you could have yourself almost a somewhat capable little gaming device here. That's pretty slick for $350. So
yeah, and I mean, you look at some of the devices like the A and Neo, and I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that are out now, besides the GPD, and they're so expensive in comparison to the Steam Deck already. And the Steam Deck, because of the way it's tuned and the processing, it works so much better to play the games already, even in Windows mode, even though Windows mode is still a little janky from what I understand.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, you can still put it in Windows mode. You can still access your Epic Game Store. If you put it in Linux, or even if you just run the Steam application and just core install from what the Steam Deck should have and run it as, I don't know, like a Steam box, basically, in your living room, it's totally possible if you had the wiring and maybe, a 3D printer or someone that had produced a case for it.
Yeah, that's one of those neat things though, with just all these different little bits being available. Or maybe you take all of the other parts, like the controller parts and that, and you make your own next gen Steam controller.
Oh man,
you could go that far if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, look, this is what you could have done, Valve, but you gave us what we got now with one analog stick, 2 touchpads, and 80 buttons all over the place.
I still want one. I know you have one, and I know you don't use it, and I probably wouldn't either, but it's the fact, the nostalgia of the actual thing.
My problem now is I don't know where the USB dongle went for it. I have not been able to find it. But
I don't think they're very comfortable, honestly.
They really aren't. They aren't. And that's why I'm glad I've got like Xbox controllers right here to be able to do that if I need to.
No, so, I put it in a case.
Oh, in a case. I mean, if I find it, I might actually I saw someone years ago who had taken their broken Xbox controller and made a shadow box out of it, just a blown up, shadow box with all the different parts laid out. Maybe I should do that with a Steam controller and Steam Deck as a homage to what, has evolved into the Steam Deck now.
Oh, kind of like that one company does with the with
the older iPhones
consoles and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's where I got the inspiration from. Yeah, and then just have a little detail, like, thing that it attaches to that says, like, here's the motherboard, here's the analog sticks.
Oh, man, I don't know if you... I'd be sad if you tore it apart.
I'll do it nicely. I mean, it'll still be able to be used. I'll just do it as nice as I can. Jeez, cut me some slack, at least. I mean, it won't be usable, but at least be nice to look at. Anyway, so the listing, of course, went premature with everything that went up there on iFixit. So if you are someone who has a Steam Deck coming in, you have a Steam Deck now, and you need to start doing things for replacement parts, I don't believe that has gone live yet. It's gone a little bit early there, but it is at least coming in now. So be on the lookout for the official announcement on when those parts are going to be available. In the meantime, we carry on to what's probably more annoying, I think, especially in where we're at with games nowadays too, and that is with the updated tiers for PlayStation Plus, and that including access to PlayStation 1 titles as well. It turns out the PlayStation 1 titles that are being included as part of the new PlayStation Plus tiers are all the 50 hertz PAL versions. And I saw another article today that shows that Sony actually tried to upscale the 50 hertz versions up to 60 hertz. And there's a lot of ghosting happening in those right now because of just that jump up. And that really, really sucks, especially for, trying to play some of these games where the resolution and the quality is, not up to, 4K HDR or anything of the sort. It's definitely you got to take a step back in time.
And even in comparison, playing on the classic console with the retro hardware, like on a CRT TV, you still it was still noticeable the difference between the 50 and 60 hertz version. There was a slight flicker in the 50 hertz version that you just didn't really see as much in the 60 hertz. And yeah, there were just slight differences that it was so much nicer to actually be able to play a 60 hertz version for a US player. And the only reason I know this is because I had a hacked system that I had a few Japanese games that ran in 50 hertz, and they sucked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the game was great, but the actual visual of it just was not as crisp as it could have been.
Yeah, that's and we kind of talked about this, I think, yesterday, and we think that some of it, like I've got it going behind me right now, is a PAL version of Ape Escape that's actually playing on the PlayStation 5, and someone actually took frame rate measurements of it as they were playing. But we talked about this, and we wonder if some of it could be down to maybe like licensing or ease of access as it comes to actually acquiring those.
Right,
Those
or
titles
maybe the
again.
possibility that the original conversion from the 50 hertz to 60 hertz could have been lost, and they're, without recoding the entire game, this is what we have, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I guess Nintendo themselves, with some titles they released, I think on Switch Online that were PAL versions, there was enough of an uproar from the community that they put out more effort to actually do both the PAL version and the NTSC versions. So
Hmm.
the option was available at least to pick which one you wanted to play, because there are some games that have more content or different content in either of the different types, whether it is PAL or NTSC. So having both available
This
was
is
one of those
also
things
true.
that offered kind of a benefit that says you can play what you originally grew up with, or you can move on to try out this other version that wasn't available to you that has this extra level, this extra character, this extra dialogue, what have you.
Well,
So
and
it's nice
you
to have
say
that.
extra dialogue. That's a funny thing too, because some of the PAL versions, even if they do have extra dialogue, or regardless if they're the same version, a lot of times they'll include language tracks that are read quicker for the actual gameplay, so it plays quicker for a speedrunner.
Hmm. That's actually a very, very good point to
That's
bring
why
up there.
if you ever watch the games done quick, there are a lot of speedrunners that will run a game in like Italian or a Japanese, just trying to get the faster language track.
That's right. Yeah. And so, of course, that offers that benefit too, because I'm sure we're going to see
Hmm.
the speedrunners come out of the woodwork to try out these games again on a newer console to, either duplicate or improve on even their own speedruns if possible, or just try it for the
Right.
sake of trying it. So that is also going to be there too. Uh, but there's no real word on what Sony's going to be doing, at least with this yet. They haven't necessarily talked a lot about it. Um, but I mean, it's out there and it's definitely confused some people as to why. But maybe there's going to be some more details that come up here soon about why they went with the PAL. They went the route of using the PAL versions instead.
I think my biggest question is because a lot of the games that are getting added are are also going to be available to purchase and download for users as well, and you'll be able to access the trophies as well. So they've also talked about the fact that if you've already purchased those games like via, I don't know, PS4, for like cross-gen play with the Vita or whatever, that you'll still have access to those titles. Now, does that mean that my Vita versions will also gain access to trophies? I'd like some more information on this too.
That's right, because they did announce that there are going to be trophies included at least in some of these games as well, but not all of them.
Yes, Siphon Filter in particular. I have Siphon Filter, and they were the first one to pop up with the pating, the first trophy, and it begins.
Yeah, then there was another talk though too about some of these games that had DLC for them. Like one of them that came up was like Resistance 3 on, I believe it was the PlayStation 3. That
hmm
version of the game with its DLC, the DLC part won't be available on the PlayStation Plus tiers when you're accessing that game. So that means that there's
Right,
a whole slew of content that's not available, at least as a part of that bundle, that
right.
tier for Plus, which is I'm sure, like, I haven't played a Resistance game in years, so I can't really recall a lot about Resistance 3, the DLC. But I think for someone who wants to go back and relive some of those, and with playing some of those classic games, that not having access to everything might be a little bit of a concern. Maybe not necessarily hold up everything because you do get something, but the idea of
hmm
not being able to have that additional content with it might drag some things down. Because I'm sure there's been a lot of DLC for tons of other PlayStation first party games that also are not going to be included with this either.
Right, right.
Yeah. But
I don't know. The some of the titles that are getting announced kind of makes it more curious for me that if it's something that I can access in its entirety, minus if there's any PS5 games ever put on the network in that form. Um, if I can access the rest of it in its entirety on my PS4, I might actually try it for a couple months with some of the titles that are being announced.
okay.
Just because I
I,
know I was never a big Resistance person, but Resistance Retribution from the PSP got announced, and I know it's going to have kind of a control conundrum because it did use the analog stick for motion, and your head motion was actually your cross, triangle, circle, and square button. So it had like wonky old school first person shooter controls, but even though it was a third person shooter game, but I still would like to replay that one. It was a lot of fun. So, and it'd be neat to check it out on to see what they've done to try and modernize it.
yeah, and I'm looking at the list here for some of the games that have been announced. This article was published on May 23rd over at psu.com.
hmm
And in their game list here for PlayStation Plus Premium, and this actually lists out things for PlayStation 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There's nothing in PlayStation 2. Oh, it also includes PSP as well. Their list only lists Ridge Racer 2 from the PlayStation Portable. But what's interesting is in the list of PlayStation 4 games, a lot of those are already available on PlayStation 5. So why they're okay, they are in that list though too. I was just looking at them a little closer. I'm like, there's just some things that just don't make sense here as to why they're kind of going
Right.
between. But I think the PlayStation 5 versions offer that, excuse me, that additional level of upscaling and content to them just because of the increased horsepower.
Mhm.
But I mean, like I look at some of these, and as a fan, like I don't own a PlayStation anymore, but a fan of like Twisted Metal, not seeing any Twisted Metal games on here seems a little weird for me. But maybe it ties into the upcoming like supposed Twisted Metal TV series and potentially a new game that's coming out as well. that they aren't going to release those games until maybe that time.
Right.
So I don't know. Just it's some of the stuff on there. Okay, cool. I get it. But man, that PAL thing. I don't know how much that's going to hold them back.
Yeah.
So
Well, and especially, I'm not entirely certain if my version of Ape Escape that's on my Vita right now, is PAL, because it was one that I had purchased as a previous. I love Ape Escape, so I purchased it previously and played it. So I'm kind of curious if that's one. Siphon Filter's another one that I had purchased, and I'd like to see if that is one that's going to be the PAL version all of a sudden, because I'm fairly certain that one was the NTSC version before.
Oh, that's a good point. That's going to be
I'm almost
one you're going to have to watch for.
100% certain, actually, that one was the NTSC version that I have downloaded.
You're going to have to keep an eye out.
I just have to
see
find which memory card it's on.
Yeah, out of all those small memory cards, the proprietary choice that they made on those. But that's
and you have to reset the system every time you swap the card.
God dang. Okay, maybe it is kind of good that the Vita has sort of just faded into obscurity now. And
I still loved it.
I know. I know.
That's why I'm excited about the Steam Deck.
Yes, I know. You'll have that here very soon, too. In the meantime, let's talk about, of course, one of the other things that was sort of talked about last year, and now we know more on at least, but it sounds like it's going to be a while until it comes out, is that Microsoft has actually stepped up and said that they are working on a streaming stick that allows you to do Game Pass streaming or Game Pass Ultimate's cloud streaming functionality without the need of having a PC or an Xbox. It's just a little streaming device that you plug into your TV with your controller, and then you play games. They dropped an announcement just the other day talking about this device itself under the code name Keystone. And according to the article from Windows Central here, they have stated, and this is the actual quote from Microsoft, it says, "Our vision for Xbox cloud gaming is unwavering. Our goal is to enable people to play the games they want on the devices they want, anywhere they want. As announced last year, we've been working on a game streaming device codenamed Keystone that could be connected to any TV or monitor without the need for a console. As a part of any technical journey, we are constantly evaluating our efforts, reviewing our learnings, and ensuring we are bringing value to our customers. We have made the decision to pivot away from the current iteration of the Keystone device. We will take our learnings and refocus our efforts on a new approach that will allow us to deliver Xbox cloud gaming to more players around the world in the future." So, Phil Spencer last year had talked about a streaming device of some type that would let you play Xbox games. And now we've got more confirmation on it, though, that they were working on something, but they now have to shelve it because they didn't seem to be going in the right direction like they wanted to with it. And that may not necessarily be a bad thing. I would much rather see a delay in a product to make sure that the quality is there and the bugs are worked out. But given the previous issues we saw with availability of consoles in general, now that some of that is sort of leveling out and balancing out, what do you take away from this, though, that they have to shelve this now? Do you think that's a good thing, bad thing? What are you thinking?
I think, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. The idea of the whole streaming device for Xbox is a really, really great idea for the direction that they want to move in. However, right now, just because of I think the state of the internet in the United States as a whole, being as we have so many data caps, we have so many bottlenecks at different levels, whether it be at the actual server level, or coming down, even coming into your house, with older houses that have shoddier wiring that is just so much older and can't carry the bandwidth.
That is a big one, especially.
Yeah, I don't think it's super viable right at the moment. Now, I look at the fact that where we live and we've got fiber optic coming into town finally,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that can provide a good foothold for people in our town. And if that can be more broadly put out across the United States, then yeah, that would be a more effective way to do it. Don't get me wrong, I could see them selling a lot of units, especially in more populated areas that do have access to that higher speed internet. But even then, a lot of those places are going to have bottlenecks just because of the number of people on the internet.
That's true, especially when you look at those dense urban areas where you
Hmm.
have people living in apartment complexes that are multiple stories tall, and they all have to work from the same internet connection in a manner of speaking, at least infrastructure wise. But you are right that is a big concern. Granted, I could see maybe for some people workarounds, of course, with 5G becoming as more prominent as it has been, and the ability to
Hmm.
tether off your phone not really being as limited as it was, using something, say, like oh, I don't know, like you having a data cap on the actual tethering itself. You could maybe plug it into the streaming device and have that separate from the crap internet you might have. I get that. There are other ways to potentially go around it, but you do make a still an excellent point no matter what, that our internet here in the United States is definitely not there yet. And maybe that's why they shelved it. Maybe they did a look at everything and realized we're not there. I think even Microsoft did a study sometime in the last couple of years that countered what the FCC had put out for the broadband
Hmm.
study in the US, and found even more holes for less than minimum requirements for bandwidth across the United States. Like, they found a
Right.
lot more pockets uh, of these areas that needed to be addressed, and they're not the
Right.
most populated, but still, it's something that they made light of. So maybe that's why they shelved it. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, and actually, Serpent Knight commented that he had pulled a splitter from the '80s out of his wall a couple of years ago. So I mean, that kind of goes to tell
infrastructure,
you,
yeah.
yeah, it just it goes down even to the older infrastructure of houses. Just in towns, a lot of houses don't get modernized. People live in them for years and years, and it's not like internet's been around forever at this point. I mean,
Feels like it, man.
really and truly, you know.
But yeah, and I'm like, a good example is, like, we know you have problems with your internet connectivity at home sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, and it was the same over at my parents' house too, where we discovered that a splitter on the outside of their house was not properly weatherproofed by the last technician that was out. And that last technician hadn't been out for, like, 10 years or so, because, we didn't need it. And it turns out that because it wasn't weatherproof, it had started to rust and corrode, and it was causing all of these different internet drops for my parents. So new techs came out,
Right.
replaced it, got everything working again, and their speeds bumped up like no other. But yeah, I mean, that was an easy one at least to fix because it's on the outside. You are right on the infrastructure part. For some of these places, you have to tear open walls to get to some of these
Hmm.
things to address that. And that is a potential, like, downfall for things as we continue to move into a streaming world, as we continue to push forward, which, funny enough,
Right.
consider that a plug for our discussion next week, where we're talking about paid memberships and game streaming in a podcast episode.
And remarkably, I don't mention Devolver Digital.
Thank God for that, because they haven't done anything with streaming yet, but maybe they'll put out
Well,
a
they
streaming
they were
device
they
before
they
this.
had the Devolver Max Pass Plus joke
Oh,
that
God.
they did last summer. So I
And
think this summer's gonna be NFTs. I feel it in my bones.
probably will be some type of
Yeah.
crypto coin, whatever. But anyway, um, we look forward to at least seeing what Microsoft could potentially put out. It doesn't necessarily mean that game streaming is just not happening, because it is still right now. You can still get to it on your Windows device, on your mobile device, on your Xbox, as long as you've got a controller, or you could even do some keyboard mouse stuff. but you are able to still do it as long as you're paying for Game Pass Ultimate, and
And
it's there. This is just another way to be able to do it without having to have anything else.
let's face it. I mean, there have been rumors and just so heavy of rumors of the well, it's kind of our next thing of stuff to come that 6 months down the line this could get reannounced as a thing that's coming out in a year from then.
Well, let's use that as the segue then and talk about that then, Kyle. What's up with this one?
Yeah. So TCL apparently thinks PS5 Pro and a new Xbox are coming in 2023 2024. Basically in a I guess what was it, a conference that TCL had, the Telecommunications Limited company that produces basically Roku TVs right at the moment. That's what they're known for anyway. Had a conference in which they were talking about their plans for the future of their panels and what they would like to go forward with doing and producing the potential of 8K. And I think it has to do a lot with them wanting to be the first to be to 8K. But when they were talking about the Gen 9.0 and 9.5 console generations, if I know the graphics should be up now, that they say the new Xbox Series and PS5 Pro models will be coming out Gen 9.5 in 2023 2024. So yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess and this sent I've got the title there below us. It sent the internet into a tizzy because it sent everybody wondering, like, okay, well, why is TCL talking about this when there's nothing else that came out? And if TCL is dropping this type of news, they've obviously just broken an NDA, because you don't want that stuff getting out before the hardware manufacturers actually go and do their own announcements themselves, outside of your, I guess, what you consider your regular leak cycle. So,
well, and I think they have some of the other dates wrong.
Like what?
I don't believe both Xbox One S and X and PS4 Pro launched in 2017. I think that was 2016, wasn't it?
I can't really remember. I think it was 2016 for the One S, and I think the One X was just after that, maybe late 2017, early 2018.
But regardless, I mean, they're trying to make predictions that they don't even have real access to.
Right.
I mean, and the fact that they have other date, or potentially could have other dates or information wrong on this slideshow in this conference, kind of makes me question their credibility, which I had come to question anyway with the quality of some of their product. But I won't speak further on that because each is to their own. So
yeah, so I was reading some other articles on this when this was published, and so this, I believe, went up. Let's see, this was on the 25th, so this was a few days ago. Some people are going off the idea that TCL has absolutely no idea about any of these new consoles. I mean, there's been rumors that the Series S is due for a refresh first, because that's selling better than the Series X, mostly because it pairs better with Game Pass right now. So there's been rumor about that that's been going on since about maybe early this year, since about January, February. But even with that, there hasn't been anything concrete to at least explain it. And TCL wouldn't necessarily be in the know, other than just using general information to say, well, this is about the time we expect hardware refreshes of sorts. Like, here's your console generation, here's a couple years down the line when they refresh, here's when this one launches. So we're going to assume 3 to 4 year timeline for it to be refreshed by the hardware manufacturers. So that's where a lot of the speculation is that they just pulled those numbers that way.
Well, here's a little secret for TCL. PS5 has actually already had 2 console refreshes, and they were all internal things that you would have never noticed unless you cracked open the system. and they both just make the system function better.
Yeah, like there's even another hardware SKU coming out for the PlayStation 5, like already listed. It hasn't come out yet, but it's supposed to be
maybe
for
that.
new.
Okay, so
Well,
it's
no,
just they've seen
no,
the
no.
one, and then that's the third one.
Yeah, so there's a couple of them that already have come out. You're right, but this one
Oh,
that's
okay.
coming out next is apparently a refresh that deals with the Wi-Fi antennas, and that's it.
Right.
So,
And
yeah, interesting.
Microsoft has talked about console refreshes, yes, but only to, solve any sort of overheating issues that they think they might have, or to solve minor things that could alleviate problems like with the chip shortage, which is something that is totally gonna like not make a PS5 Pro or an Xbox Series an Xbox Series X or S Pro console available at this time. I mean, we're talking about adding disk drives to the Series S, potentially in order to get more people to be able to play games.
Yeah, and something like that hasn't really been seen since they had the HD DVD external attachment for the Xbox 360, to be able to
Right.
consume this
Right.
content. But obviously, they see these are selling well, but they need to do more to get people to play games
Well,
on them, though, too.
and it's the fact that they can secure more of the chips because they're not as I guess a hardcore of a chip as what would be in the Series X for the Series S. So they can secure a lot more of them. They're easier to produce, and
Mm-hmm.
then they can crank out more consoles. That it's just an easy thing for them.
Yeah, that's that's where it comes down to. Even the other side of it is that it's like if there is going to be any type of hardware refresh, it's going to not necessarily be these big changes. I think like what TCL was referring to, because I got to admit, I think we've really kind of hit the good spot when it comes to video quality, at least as it relates to our panels. And this was another thing I was reading about too, is that everybody who has a 4K TV, or everybody who wants a 4K TV has a 4K TV. Because the cost of them has come down so much, you can go out to somewhere like Walmart, for example, and get yourself a 32 to 42 inch 4K TV for under $200. You can get yourself an all right one, not necessarily maybe like a top tier panel like one of LG's OLEDs or Samsung's OLEDs or even some of the stuff that like Sony does. But everybody who has a 4K or wants a 4K TV has one right now. Maybe has several. But what TCL is trying to do also is they're trying to drum up more business, or at least an idea that the next versions of consoles that are coming out are going to be rendering in 8K. And these things aren't even doing like the full gamut of like 4K output that they probably could do. I'm sure that as code improves and things change, we might actually see more coming out of these, or the next versions that come out are going to do 4K, but up to things like, maybe they'll go above the 30 FPS cap and get up there to 60, get up there maybe to 100 FPS, or at least try to push for stuff like that. But I don't think you're going to see this big stride for like 8K.
Yeah, but the other thing at that point too is there's no one really producing content that is 8K. I mean, I was seeing on
Most of it's just
I don't
demo
remember.
content.
Yeah, I was seeing on another channel, and I don't even remember which one, that basically Xbox has one game that's 6K, Ori.
Yeah.
What I mean, it's just to say they could do it, but beyond that, like, are people going to start cranking out 8K games and cranking in or putting all this extra money into, video processing for a game just so they can squeeze out those little extra graphics, and put out that content for those 5 people that really want to play it in 8K at 30 frames?
No, that's exactly it. That's the big thing. There's not going to be the extra work unless there's the people out there who there's enough people who own the product to actually be able to show it in its full form, and there's not going to be enough value that comes out of it to actually make that money back from rendering at that quality. You're going to see demos. Right. You're going to see You're going to see ideas. You're going to see visions and that come out that are rendered in 8K. It's like, we can do this, but it's not going to say you have to do this. Like, even like a good example is the Unreal Engine 5 demo that they did to tie in with the new Matrix movie. And what they were talking about, because there is like a new Matrix game, I think, that's coming out too. But they were showing off like what Unreal Engine 5 could do and the level of quality that also includes not just your granular details, but also your lighting, your dynamic shadows, your and the level of AI that's actually in there. It was sure beautified and put in a way that everybody could understand and at least enjoy it and realize, wow, we can get lifelike stuff out of here. But you're not going to see that type of thing on your standard consumer hardware like this, at least going up to 8K, because I can't afford an 8K panel. Can you?
No.
No, not like in the regular sense. Like I just don't want to go and get one because there's no content for me to put on it either.
Right, and that's the other thing is I've got a older, very much older, LG 1080p TV that I've had since they just barely came out with 1080p TVs. It works great still. I have no reason to get rid of it. It's a little bit thick and heavy, but until that just blows up on me, there's no reason for me to go get another TV,
And
especially when they're that big.
And that's the same with this guy here I've got on my wall here in the, I guess what I'll call the NPC studio. I've got that up on my wall right now. This is an LG TV on my wall that I bought from a buddy of mine back in 2010, 2011, because he had upgraded his TV and just didn't need it anymore. I think it maxes out at 1080i is as far as that goes. Not even 1080p, but it works just fine. It does exactly what it needs to do. It has no smart features in it. And it's only got 2 HDMI ports on it, but it does just fine. Will I replace it sometime here soon? Sure. But is the thing broken and require replacement? No, it doesn't.
I think mine might actually be 1080i as well, because I think it might be the same model line, because yours has the longer light bar with the silver bar underneath it, right?
It's got the entire
light sensor.
No, it's got the entire speaker underneath, and then there is a silver like piece of trim there. But that's about it, though.
Maybe so, it might be the same model line. So, because I want to say mine came out right around 2009, right around I want to say between 2008 and 2010. So
yeah, so. Even so, again, we both agree. But, we've got higher quality monitors, though, like the monitor I'm staring at here while we're doing the news is a 2K monitor. I've got a 4K TV upstairs. The monitor you're looking at, I believe, is also a 2K monitor. And you've got, the ability to do potentially 8K with your RTX 3090 on your computer. But
once again, it's the expense of the monitor, and
exactly.
Monitors seem to be 10 times more expensive than TVs.
Yeah, so whatever TCL is really going on about is just seriously to market their upcoming televisions, because that's just what they're trying to do. They don't have any real insider information. They're speculating.
They're almost trying to generate this much buzz so that when people look back, if they do actually make that deadline, if someone puts out if they do make out at least the PS5 Pro, say, they can look back and go, oh, TCL did predict it. Maybe we need to look at them, and maybe we need to buy their products. But I think that's also a bad way to do business.
No, I'm more inclined to listen to the guy who lives across the street from me about electronics than I am TCL right now as it comes to console releases.
Right.
So, yeah. But anyway, we spent a lot of time there on that one. So yeah, right now TCL's just really, I think, grasping for straws as it comes to
smoke.
trying to get it. If they do end up being right, hey, good for them. They followed a pattern where console refreshes kind of hit. So yay for them. But we carry on, at least as it relates to some other new hardware, but also talk from Sony as well about upcoming stuff for PlayStation. State of Play. They announced the first one for 2022, coming out here June 2nd. They are going to be spending apparently a half hour showing off a bunch of different things. but they are going to be actually focusing quite a bit on PlayStation VR 2, which that's kind of cool to actually get some new information out of it. And of course, for people who probably haven't seen it yet, or at least don't remember what it looks like, this is the picture over on Engadget's article talking about the state of play. That is what the PSVR 2 is set to look like, with controllers similar to the Oculus Quest, with the kind of the tracking all being built into the actual VR headset. No requirement for, say, like the PlayStation Eye camera, the Move camera that was there previously. All built in, the haptic triggers there for from the DualSense controller, additional comfortability as it comes to actually wearing it, foveated rendering, so when you're looking at something, it's rendered in the highest quality and puts all that processing power there. You know, all the good stuff that you'd expect in something that's being refreshed. We're finally getting more games at least shown off for it.
And
Next
one
week.
cable.
One cable. Dude, no joke. How many cables was it that you were supposed to use to actually set up
God.
the PSVR? Like how? Like,
dude,
I
have an octopus of cables still next to my desk because I haven't been able to clean it up all the way. It's like I clean up one cable from the VR and 5 more appear.
Because
it's insane.
Because isn't it? You have HDMI out from the. You have HDMI out and USB out from the VR box, and then it does 1 or 2 cables from the VR box out to you with the headset, and then it's an HDMI cable out from that to your TV, so you can actually have what's up on your TV.
So there's one cable to the headset, but this headset cable goes to a box, and that box has like 2 cables plugged into it, but that box, one of those cables connects to another box that has 4 cables or 5 I think 4 cables,
Holy
no, 5
crap,
cables.
That's right.
Yeah, connected to it. And then one of those cables has to be connected to the front USB port. One of them has to be connected to the HDMI port. Yeah, it's insane. I've already lost track. It's a good thing that the cables come with a guide on, and they're all numbered, because it's insane trying to hook up a PSVR.
Yeah, and at least, I mean, you know, like they took a cue here from what HTC has done, and
but...
I know, but it's like they've taken a cue from what HTC has done with the upgrades, like with the Valve Index, and what Meta's done with the Quest, where even though the Quest is wireless and can be used without being connected to a PC, its link cable is just a USB Type-C to Type-C cable, and that's all it needs to be able to do PC games on it. So
and that's all you should need.
Agreed. Yeah, and this one, from what I understand, is that this should be USB Type-C, and the front of the PlayStation 5 has a USB Type-C port. So the thought is that should also be one that's used for both video and data transfer, which is going to be pretty slick then in the long run. So, yeah. Kyle, you stoked for more details on VR2, even though you're not going to have a PlayStation 5?
You know, there's been all the news with PlayStation, and especially, you know, we're not really going to mention it later on either, so I might as well mention it here, that, you know, they kind of had let it slip that in the next couple years they want to put like about half or more of their library potentially on PC. So I mean, that means we could see some of the PlayStation VR titles come to PC as well.
And that was going to be my question for you too, Kyle, is that as Sony has continued to make that push to put their games on PC, I mean, you're getting ready to be able to play God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn on your Steam Deck when that comes in, but do you see Sony actually branching away and offering some sort of compatibility for the PSVR 2 to work on a PC?
No.
You don't think so? They're going to keep it proprietary?
No. I think they will keep it entirely proprietary. I think because the PC market right now is completely flooded with other VR devices. I mean, with the HTC Vive, and then you've got the Acer mixed reality, and they've got was it Acer or was it Asus? I think Asus has one too, actually. I think they both do. And then, you know, you've got Valve's Index. There's just so many on the PC market. I think to stick with the console market would be the smart move, because right now they would have the stranglehold on the market.
Yeah, right now I'm looking at this article from PC Mag for the best VR headsets for 2022, and this was updated back about just over a month ago, and it has the
Mhm.
Vive Cosmos, the HP Reverb G2, the Vive Pro 2, the Valve Index, the PSVR, and the Oculus Quest 2. So, out of even those ones alone, it's like, okay, there are some out there that people, can, look at and
Well,
get anyway. So you are right. There are others out there.
and that doesn't necessarily mean that it couldn't be hacked, or you couldn't find a way to get it to function with the PC. I mean, they have to program it somehow. It's not like that, they just plug it into a PlayStation 5 and it's like, oh, it worked. But
Ah!
right,
Yeah.
it's not just a
And
miracle.
no,
So
it really isn't.
there probably is someone that's out there that's got a PS4 VR working on a PC, but it's the fact that I think they're gonna tailor their software and make it so it works exclusively for the PlayStation, because there's no other console maker right now that does the PlayStation or that does the VR except Oculus, and you have to have your Meta subscription or your Meta profile or whatever to even access
that's
that.
right, huh?
So
Yeah, that's very true. So, okay. I mean, I wanted to at least kind of talk predictions there, especially just because of the push that they're making with their games going to PC. But that's all right. That's understood, to be able to keep their ecosystem kind of together without having to worry about what it could be if someone does, take a PSVR headset. They don't have to test against a whole other gamut of hardware to try to figure out if everything's going to work okay. So that's understood. That's cool. But in the meantime, we're ready to move on here to our last section, of course, of the news, and that's all of our quest markers. So, Kyle, what do we got in the list for this week on those short, sweet, to the point stories?
So, for the short, sweet, to the point, Jedi Fallen Order had its sequel announced at the Star Wars Celebration. Of course, it brings back Kyle Kestis, this time
Cal.
alone
It's
without
Cal.
Cal,
Not you,
whatever.
Kyle. No, you're not the star of
No,
the
it's
show.
Kyle Kestis. It's Kyle Kestis. No, Cal Kestis. Even though it sounds like I'm saying Kyle, it's Cal Kestis. Alone, on his own, without his lightsaber. Looks pretty cool, but the thing that was announced in the trailer is doesn't seem like there's gonna be any PS4 or Xbox One version available. So you're gonna be looking towards next gen and PC versions only for this one.
Well, I guess that's probably a good sign, given that, at least it lets them work on developing even more as it relates to the, at least as it relates to quality on those games themselves, instead of developing across all these different console generations. More effort into the singular version of the game, I suppose, the current gen.
And of course, one of the cool things it does show in the trailer is that the Sith has actually captured his lightsaber. So there'll be a whole quest of actually either building or retrieving your lightsaber.
He's gonna fight him with death sticks.
Yeah, bring out the death sticks.
The Star Wars universe equivalent of cigarettes, maybe, or
cigarettes, yeah,
or some other type of drug. I don't know.
He's gonna be a pusher now.
You want to buy some death sticks? You don't want to sell me death
buy
sticks.
the death sticks.
Don't want to sell you death sticks. All right. Anyway, what do we got next?
TikTok follows Netflix and plans to push into the gaming world.
Jesus Christ.
Of course, this has actually been beta tested and launched, like soft launched in, I'm going to say, parts of South Korea, with Zynga Games, who I believe was just purchased by Take-Two, if I'm not mistaken.
Either Take-Two or 2K. Yeah, the acquisition just finished this week.
Yeah. But previously they had put a few games out for TikTok. Now it looks like maker of Hearthstone, Blizzard, could be potentially putting out a card game that you could gain access to through the mobile app on your phone. So maybe TikTok and Hearthstone.
No, great.
Moving on, Valve hears the Team Fortress 2 players and will work on bot spam in game. Major problem right now is they have a bot issue of bots actually being more obnoxious than troll players, playing licensed music, spamming text, being rude, and then kicking players when bot lobbies become full of or more full of bots than they do of actual players. So Valve has actually heard the players and is going to attempt to take action to rectify the bot issue or botting issue. I don't know what you want to call it.
And I will mention
And then
I will mention with that too is that a guy on Reddit actually went out to where Valve Studios are at, out to the building, and he was dressed up as a spy from Team Fortress 2 and had a sign up that says #SaveTF2 and ended up being
I
kicked
forgot
out.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, he got
that's
kicked
super
out.
funny.
Yeah, I think most of it was just pretty much because of the mask and because of course of our unfortunate tragedies we've had over the last few weeks. So
It's
that
because he
doesn't
was
surprise me.
smoking the cigar.
There's probably that too. Yes, probably. So okay, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. What do we got next?
No, you're good. You're good. And our last quest marker for the day, EA is looking for a possible buyout from either Apple, Disney, and Amazon. And with possible interest from Disney seeking synergy with ESPN in the sports line now that FIFA has officially, unfortunately, departed from EA.
Wow. I mean, I wonder if EA just feels like they're left out given all these other acquisitions that are going on, especially with the Activision Blizzard one and Microsoft right now.
Yeah, I mean, you see some of the big numbers being thrown around, but then again, EA has absorbed a lot of big name studios in the past, and it's seen the I guess dissolute or studios get dissolved.
Mm-hmm.
You think of like Westwood, they made all the previous Dune RTS games totally dissolved under EA. Um, Look what happened when EA bought out BioWare.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's not necessarily to
I mean,
say
we
that
got Andromeda.
it's true. We did get Andromeda, but hey, you got Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and you were
I
able to
did
beat
get
that
Mass Effect
sucker, so
Legendary
there
Edition
you go.
and finally got to experience the full glory of the game.
There you
So
go.
that was awesome.
See, there you
But
go.
I mean, please don't Disneyfy my Mass Effect.
Oh God, let's just keep our fingers crossed. No, that we're not going to see like
Right.
we're not going to see Commander Shepard in a Disney princess movie or something. Okay,
Oh God.
yeah, let that sink in.
Commander Shepard cross Buzz Lightyear.
This is my favorite castle in all of Disneyland.
Yeah. Commander Shepard to the rescue.
Commander Shepard gets a Buzz Lightyear costume. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, jeez. Anyway, I'm cutting
When they
us
both
off.
go to Fortnite in a crossover.
That was what I was waiting to hear, and that's where I'm stopping this then for the night. So, with that horrible image out of the way now, thank you so much, everybody. That is it for the news this week. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to this week's news roundup. Of course, as always, we try to do this every single weekend, Saturdays, 8 p.m. Mountain Time here on our YouTube channel. So go ahead and subscribe to us. That way, when we go live, you'll know when we're available. You know we're online. You're ready to listen to us. Of course, if you don't have time to sit around for the entire news segment here for our entire news live stream, which does go for an hour, you can always check us out on the podcast, which we do drop a new episode of our podcast, not only every Thursday talking about with our discuss side of things, talking about a specific topic in the video game world, but on Mondays, we normally drop the replay of the news. So you can pick that up on your favorite podcast platform of choice, whether it is Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, wherever, we're all there. But if you want to find one yourself or go listen to us on our main homepage, you can over at anchor.fm/the-NPCs-podcast. In the meantime, of course, that is it for us tonight. We will catch you guys all next week.
Bye-bye.